So, hey, fellas, really appreciate you getting in here and being a part of this. I really love the New York City Catholic League. Recruited it for a while while I was at Buffalo State in particular. And then just to be able to be a part of it with all these great speakers is really, really a cool thing for me. So thanks for that. As we go through this, like I'm the last speaker of the day. I have my presentation here. But certainly if there's anything that you guys have a question at, don't hesitate to break in and ask me. And we can go longer too if you have anything, specifically you guys want to talk about. And then I'll leave my contact info in the chat here as well before we leave. So, again, if you guys want to reach out, we got all the time in the world right now. So be more than happy to talk ball and, hopefully I can learn something from you and you can learn something from me as we go through this. So first part of this is just specifically, kind of about like our organization and how I try to kind of build the culture of special teams here at Bates. We call it the fourth down mentality. I think one of the most important things is to consider when coaching special teams is just the way that you sell it to your guys, because when people say they play football and they ask what position, nobody's saying left guard on punt. Nobody's saying right tackle on kickoff return. They're saying they're the middle linebacker, they're the running back. So finding a way to sell that to them, and this is one of the ways. Fourth down mentality is the way that you would approach a fourth down or offense and defense, same way you have to approach a fourth down all the time, any of our kicking plays, because you only got one shot at it. The three things that we talk about within that, and I'm big on threes. Listening to Scott Ballone earlier, he talked about buzzwords, and we're huge on that. We always try to group things in threes as much as we can, and I'm huge on finding ways to be as concise as possible with our verbiage and being as consistent as possible with our verbiage. So we go maniacal effort, detail, and energy. That's what we really, really value here. Unbelievable balls to the wall effort on every single play. Again, you only have one shot at it, especially in the kicking game. Detail with everything that we do, and then high energy. And as it says on the top there, our edges got to be we care more. And, I know that, again, everybody really cares deeply about their performance on offense and defense. And, sometimes it even goes for coaches. There are teams that you can see don't put as much into special teams. We got to beat those teams decisively because of how much we care about it. Going along with this, when I actually go in a meeting, the first thing I do at the beginning of the meeting, we all hold our fists up. Fourth down, signal from a referee is the fist up. And I say, what's the fourth down mentality? Put my first finger out. They say maniacal effort, detail, energy. To, again, get it in their brains as we go through it. I think a really important thing is to make special teams fun. Again, like if you make it a miserable experience, those players aren't going to want to be there. They might sit through it on offense or defense, again, because that's what they chase. That's what they're passionate about. But you got to make them really enjoy being in on those special teams meetings. I'm big on being consistent but not stale. Everybody has different kinds of learners. One thing that, I've done since this quarantine's happened, there's a great questionnaire that you can have your players take through NC State that'll tell you the type of learners they are. I had my D-line and my specialists do that, and it was fascinating to see, what kind of learners we had and the differences within that, and I can cater that to a little bit more of my position versus special teams where I've got 40, 50 guys that I'm coaching. So I need to make sure as I deliver this information, it's in a lot of different ways. So again, I want to be consistent in my message, but I want to find different ways to get to it. I think it's also important, you see the last one get a little bit weird with it. I'm a weird guy. So I'm going to make sure that the way that I'm coaching reflects my personality. I think it's really important to do that. I've been around a lot of great coaches, and I've stolen a lot from a lot of different coaches, but I never want to be a cheap imitation of one of those guys. I think, we've all seen coaches who are trying to, be too much like, Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick or whoever it is that they see on the TV. I think it's important to be authentically you. And the players will see that, and the players will appreciate that. So, a couple ways I did that. You'll actually see, we did one of the things, I think, like something that you always have to cover as a special teams coordinator, all the weird rules that you get into with special teams, but it's also can be super dry with the players getting no retention out of it. So we actually did a Jeopardy with a couple of our guys who had interesting personalities and had them, but ask them the questions, had them go through. And I think it was like a really interesting, engaging way to be able to get our players introduced to those rules. Whereas a lot of times they could be sleeping through that meeting if you don't find an interesting way to give it. Halloween this year, we meet at 6 a.m. as special teams. I'm always trying to find ways to wake guys up. So I got the Bates Bobcat mascot costume and dressed up in that for the meeting. I think it, again, was a way to wake guys up, get guys more engaged. And we have all kinds of incentives with our special teams here. When I first got hired here, I was just the co-special teams coordinator. I ran the punt return and kickoff return teams. And I said, the first guy who gets a punt block for me is a co-coordinator. He's going to have his picture on my desk for the rest of my career. So Liam Spillane right there, got one versus Williams College. It's printed out. It's on my desk. They really strained to try to get that. And I think especially with blocking a punt, like that's one that you need a lot of extra incentive for because it takes some balls to do it. It's really, really hard to get that opportunity. And when that's there, you got to strain and put yourself in a position to get it. So he was able to do that. He has his picture on my desk. And now every guy who walks past that, sees how important the punt block is to us and, is getting to think about it. I think something else important, make sure you find ways to quantitate how well you're doing on special teams. It's a lot easier on offense or defense. You can look at total yardage, you can look at points, all the rest of that stuff. That's in the box score. That's really easy to interpret. But I think it's a lot harder for special teams. So I'll bring you through the ways that we do that, which is hidden yardage. We also track explosives and tackles. And I think it's a lot easier if you just look at this sheet. This is actually what is up on our projector when the guys walk in for their special teams meeting Sunday after games. For us, I give our units a bunch of weird names. Ty enjoys punt. Block party is punt return. Cabo is kickoff. House call is kickoff return. And we'll get more into what those mean as we go through it. But we use the number 30 in terms of punt and punt return. The average net punt at the Division III level is 31 point something. So we rounded to 30, so we had a nice round number. Our goal, we get a plus if we net above 30. We get a minus if we net below 30. So you can see on the example, the first one for Pride and Joy, 36-yard net, so that's a +6. That's a win for us. The one that's a 29, -1. Same thing going over to the block party, 35, that's a -5 for us in the net because now they netted 5 more than 30. The 3 was a +27 for us. Okay. Same thing, kickoff return. We go off of the 25 because of where the ball's put on touchbacks. So, if we get them inside the 25, then that's a +1, +2, what have you. If we get it past the 25 on our kickoff return, then that's a plus. And what this does is it really gives you an idea of how well you're doing relative to, what your goals are. So you can see there we had a total of +96, which is a winning number for you. And it helps the players see, like, the how, or I should say the what, really clearly right when they walk in that meeting, and then you can go through and explain it, and it helps you drill down to the why and the how a lot easier, in my opinion. We also track explosives. So an explosive is simply a ±30 or more. In any of them, you can see I highlight those in green. So you see the two, explosives there. Explosive against are in red. We certainly had games that had a few of those in it as well. But, when I get to choose what the slide is, I prefer to have a good one. You have penalties. Really quickly, I go through the positives. and negatives, and then, track the tackles in there as well. The other thing that we do, the day after a game is we have 3 stars of the game. So your top kind of 3 special teams performers to, again, keep it real positive, and give these guys an incentive to work for. So, when they walk in that room, this will be the second slide as I go through, what happened in the game, but we'll actually have all 3 of them will have action shots up on the wall. So the guys will know when they walk in who the 3 stars were. Those shots stay up throughout the week to, again, give them another incentive, give them another thing to think about as they go through the football game, give them a couple bullet points of what those guys did well. Also up in our special teams meeting room, we have the block party wall of fame. So anytime someone blocks a punt, they get an action shot up there. And again, that stays up for the whole year. I actually moved that to right next to my desk in the office as well. So anytime guys walk into my office, they can see that. And again, think about blocking punts and have that incentivized. Any questions about anything here really quickly? Again, if you guys do have questions as I go through, feel free to unmute. But if we're all good, I'll keep it going here. So, getting into our unit names and then our big 3. So, I choose the unit names based on just communicating, what's important, what we want from that. Punt, that's our baby. That's our pride and joy. We got to take care of it. We got to really nurture it. That has to be the most important thing we do. That's our most important play throughout the game. All right. After that, we have a big 3 for each unit, which gives our guys a real nutshell on how we want them to perform, what they need to do to be successful on each unit. I think, we've all gotten into this situation where we're in a bad spot in the depth chart. We had one case this year where we got to our 3 on punt, almost before the game even started, where everybody was healthy coming into it. So I like having the big 3 because it'll tell guys really quickly, okay, this is what I have to do to be successful as I go through this. So as you'll see, first of all, actually, I'll talk about our rules of engagement. So this is a big 3 as well, but this is just giving guys like really easy pointers of how to win when they come in contact with an opposing player. And like some of the points of this are different, whether we're talking about a block on kickoff return or we're talking about a tackle or we're talking about a block destruction. But, this is something that I'm really passionate about and really big on and really translates to just about any time you're going to come in contact with an opposing player on the football field. First of all, hairline to chin. So I want my hairline, which is, really quickly going back further, to be on the chin of an opposing player when I make contact. That's a way to say get low, but I think that gives the player a more specific target to work for. So I like it better for that reason. 2 is moving feet. We want our feet moving on contact. Always say running feet equals violence on contact. Moving feet and then tight hands. We want our hands tight, whenever we're making contact with the guy. Again, tackling. We want to be low. We want to move our feet. We want to have tight hands. You're talking about a ball carrier. Tight hands on the ball security, right? Moving feet, hairline to chin. So, this is something that we really stress. And again, the rest of our coaches and our staff do a really great job being on the same page with this exact terminology. Again, want to be really consistent and really concise with how we talk to our guys. So the big 3 for pride and joy. And this is really dependent on what your scheme is, right? We have a little bit of a different punt scheme. So, it could be different versus what you guys do. But for us, first is tempo. We're a multiple shift and motion punt operation, so we want to be really, really fast. We want to simulate an up-tempo offensive play with how we play on punt. Second part is strike. We want to strike violently on the guy that we're blocking. To me, the block, if you're a shield punt operation, which we are, the block is most similar to block destruction. So we want to strike with, again, those hands nice and tight and really be violent with it, okay? And then leverage on the ball in coverage. So, again, this is something else. We start talking about pride and joy. Everybody's fists up, and I go, 1, they say tempo, 2, strike, 3, leverage. And all our guys by the end of the year could say that back to you just because of the repetition of it going through it. So for tempo, first thing we do when we practice punt, we come out and we work through, whatever our unique formations and motions are for the game, which we'll always have something a little bit different every single game. This is really good because it's something that you can buzz through really quick while you're getting your scout special teams guys organized, which is always a pain in the ass. I don't care where you're on. That's a pain. So having something that you can do while that gets done, I think is a really good deal. This is just a step to your assignment and then a 5-yard release right here. Come back and do it again. Then we do it versus the scouts, right? And then we do it in a game. But we want to be really, really fast with our tempo. Again, create an up-tempo play. Something else that I forgot to mention as we go through it. Every time we have a drill, we'll be working on one of those big 3, and they'll all know, like, this is which of the big 3 for this unit we're trying to address. So obviously that tempo run through, that was for, the tempo of the play. These ones are our strike drills right here. So this is just how we split up the field, so our guys can have it. Want to make sure that they know exactly where they're going. They know what coach they're working with. Those are the initials on the bottom there. Make sure all the coaches know what equipment they need as we go through it. So really want to be specific with the field landmark. So for our front line here, like we talked about, it's most similar to block destruction. You see we have a lot of defensive guys here, linebackers, because they're the ones who are most used to doing this, okay? Again, we want to take, when we coach this, we want the first step to split his crotch, second step, get back to our stance, third step should be right down the middle of the crotch, strike, extend, and then we want to tear off. Really big thing with this drill, and something that I'm really anal about, is have them hold the bag underneath. So that, first of all, I hate when their hands through it like this and then they flipper it up and it's flopping all over the place and super unrealistic. I want that bag tight to the guy's body so he gets used to striking it like that. And then I like them holding the bag underneath as well, because when we snatch this guy off, we call it punch, extend, snatch here. We want it to be really violent back through. 19 in the back left-hand corner over there is doing it really, really well, right? Gets it extended and then snatches it. I tell them I want to be able to hear it hit the ground. Hear it hit the ground, and then get a nice 5-yard burst through the release. You see them doing that there. So this is what that strike should look like in a game. Again, you can see our tempo. We'll just go from the tight here. We're watching 24 and 55 on this one. Really good job to come in. Again, hairline to chin, tight hands, moving feet right there. Get them extended, work off to go cover this punt. Good one here. This is a great example of the tempo, right? Want to be really fast coming out of that shift. We're able to get a gunner uncovered, another guy running up here, not sure what to do, which is always great. But talking about the strike, which is what we're trying to address specifically here. Again, 24 and 37, I believe that is. Over there are our best 2. Love the initial step. 1, 2, 3, strike. Same foot, same shoulder, drive through it. And again, hairline to chin, moving feet, tight hands. As we talk about our shield now for the strike drill. So this is, we work punting out of the cup a couple different ways with this. So right here, if we get a guy rushing through the A gap, this is how we'll block it. And I really like using the med ball here and throwing it, because that gives them a small target that they have to aim to that's moving fast, that they have to time up without having a dude running full speed into him. We want to minimize any type of risk of injury, and I think doing a full speed drill into the shield is going to really, make you susceptible to that. So we prefer throwing the med ball right here. Gives them a small target, makes them have to time it up. If there are no guys coming through that gap And you can see our head coach personally coaches a shield right here, which you love. He's pointing to the outside now, so we can either bring it up the middle or from the outside. Nobody's coming through, scan out, help. Really good job. As they're scanning back out, we want to talk about hitting on the inside number. 64 is really good here. Like how he steps and strikes right down the midline of that guy, staying on the inside number with the rest of his body. 46 is a little bit sloppier with it. But again, that's kind of the idea of the drill there. And then we'll work it. We're a big rugby punt operation, especially as the season went on. We did a lot of rugby. So again, talking about a lot of the same things though. Stay on the inside number. Keep your feet underneath you, hairline to chin, moving feet, tight hands. Step through the middle line of the guy. Some examples of us doing this, and there's not a ton, honestly, of people rushing us. You can see how multiple we were. In our punt operation, a lot of people just went safe against us, but here is one. Again, with that A-gap pressure now, we aren't great here, obviously. Don't like the way that 71 is turning his feet in particular. He should be stepping to number 6 right here, but you at least get an idea of what that should look like. Game number 2, still a little bit sloppy, but we were able to stand in and get that done. This, though, is a really good look at our shield right here. So our right shield in this case, because we're rugbying to the right, has the first guy off the edge, and I love his tempo, how patient he is, right? Has a good base underneath him, hairline to chin, moving feet, tight hands, steps with that near foot, is able to widen him out. 71 looks to the edge first. Nobody's coming. He's our left shield. Excuse me. Okay. Then he scans back for any leakage. Obviously, that's not really the way we want our right tackle to approach that block there. But our left shield does a good job being able to compensate for that. Okay, so we covered tempo. We covered strike. Now this is our leverage. This is our leverage drill right here, just so you get an idea of how we're trying to leverage our punts. Gunners, cross face it. Snapper and Viper are also to the ball. They're working leverage on either side. Right guard, left guard, 5 yards outside the ball, keeping it inside and in front. Right tackle, left tackle, leveraging it 10 yards outside, keeping it inside and in front. Both shields are working to the numbers to their side. They're our ultimate contain. The punter is shadowing the ball over the middle. So this is how we drill it. It'll be easier for you guys to just see the picture. So we come out. We come out, okay? We put the cones in the distribution they should be relative to the returner. We'll generally only cover 20 yards, so we can get a lot of reps without killing our guys' legs. But we do our normal cadence, run through it. On the snap of the ball, the snapper, the Viper, and the gunners cover down, the guys who will be directed to the ball. First whistle, everybody go to the assigned cone. Second whistle, everybody will squeeze to the ball, okay? So we'll see that here, and then we'll vary it up in terms of where the returner is. And at first, he will just run straight. As we go through it, we'll have him run other directions. So here it is. We go through our normal cadence. We give it a shift. Snap the ball. Those guys who are directed to the ball cover. Everybody else just step to their blocking assignment. You can see this is a good way to add a little bit extra. Our coach who coaches the gunners right here just helps them get a little get off. All right, here's the first whistle. Everybody sprints to their assignment. Buzz down the cone. Second whistle, squeeze to it. Now you can tell our guys in the garnet there are our defensive players. Guys in the white are our offensive players. We want a near foot. We want to stay square as possible to get the two-hand tag, right? This was the first time we did this. This is great teach tape for our guys. Really important, too, that your shield does a good job distributing here. Sprint out to the numbers. Really important to coach those guys. Generally aren't a factor in your coverage, but you want to make sure they're at the right place when they are, and then good job by them covering to the ball. Want to keep it, on our inside number. So now we move the spot of the ball around a little bit. We get into our rugby stuff here. Again, no kick from the punter. You cover to the ball. First whistle, distribute. Second whistle, squeeze to it. Keep it on our inside shoulder. And now you can see those guys in white are a little bit better at it. Would like to get him with two hands to the ball there. Now on this one, our rabbit who has the ball, now he's going to move with it. We distribute, we cover. Now we got to keep him again inside and in front, near foot to the ball carrier is what we say. So here are some examples of it right here. Punting from the cup. Guy catches it, gunner's crossface. Right there it is. Force it east and west. Now here's our guard. Does a nice job being aggressive, going up and getting it. Tackle, who's initially following color, catches himself, falls back outside of it, and now he is the ball leverage on his inside shoulder as well. We talk a lot, I talk a lot to our guys about productive misses too, right? Like, he misses a tackle. Obviously, we want this guy to put the ball on the ground, but because he misses the tackle violently, aggressively, on his leverage, he still forces it out to our guys. So really a good play for us. We get the ball right back where we want it. Never want to be overly cautious, overly scared. We want to take a lot of shots on the punt team. So, we can disrupt the direction that this guy's going and force it to our help, which he does a really good job of creating a productive miss here. So this film gets cut off a little bit, but really doesn't matter because we're looking at the leverage on this distribution. Again, gunner takes a shot. There's our right tackle, number 85, leveraging on his inside shoulder, turning it back to help. And there's our left tackle, number 30, does a nice job getting back square, making the tackle on his leverage. Excuse me. So that's an idea of how we leverage the ball there. Okay, so now we'll talk about our punt return real quick. Big three for that: align, get off, finish. See a lot of different punt formations, need to be able to align it quickly so we can have success playing against those. Okay, get off. Everything we do, we want to get off the ball, put pressure on the guys. Whether we're blocking for a return or we're trying to block the punt, that first step, that get off, is critical for us, and then finish. The unique thing for a punt return team, in my opinion, is the way that you finish is different than almost anything you do in football. Certainly blocking a punt right, you're never going to be in, this position right here at any other point in a football game. And same thing, your finish on blocks, there's some carryover in terms of open field blocking and wide receiver as well. But for the most part, blocking down the field for the return is very different than what most guys do during the course of a football game. So really concentrating on our technique and our finish is really important for us here. So, how we drill the alignment, we'll always show all of our opponents' alignments here. We'll try to show a team that on punt return will line up similar to how we do as well. So just going through that, making sure they see the pictures of it, and then obviously repping it during practice. Not a lot to show you from an alignment standpoint. I think that's pretty obvious. So for this stuff here, kickoff return and punt, the positions are really different across the board, right? So we split up into pods, and we'll do different groups for that. For kickoff and punt return, most of the jobs are fairly similar. We have our returners over to the side catching balls. But other than that, pretty much everybody's doing a very similar job. So for both of those units, we do circuit work. This is how we set up our circuits here. Typically 10 minutes, 2.5 minutes per drill. We'll have 3 groups going at a time. So there's one group that's dead. I'll always put myself in the group that's dead first, that has nobody in it. That way, as a special teams coordinator, I can run around, make sure everybody has their equipment, make sure everybody's set up. and make sure the beginning of the drills are running smoothly and all of it's being taught, exactly the correct way. Luckily, I really didn't have any issues with that because our staff does an awesome job with that stuff. But still gives me peace of mind to be able to see it. So that's the way I structure it up. Find groups, position groups is the easiest way to do it, that are similar sizes. So you can kind of see, how we broke it down right there. So the first one, talking from a get-off standpoint right now, is our mug drill. So this is where we're working on getting off to block for a return, okay? We want to make it look like we're getting off to block the punt, force that guy to block us right here, okay? Coach will give 2 commands. He'll say, go. It'll make him run off the ball. Again, we want hairline to chin, moving feet, tight hands. The guy in the bottom of the screen is doing it really, really well right there. And then on the second go, that guy's going to try to escape. We want to mug and harass down the field, getting in that near hit and running him wide. We want to inside leverage this from the punt return player standpoint. Here's one more example of that drill right here. So, this will kind of show you a couple good examples and a couple bad examples of this. Number 5 and number 33 are really exceptional at this stuff. You can see the way they get off the ball, run, and knock their guy back. 33 in particular. Run your feet right through. Make him block you, and then once he does, run. Right? Number 9 and number 85, show you why we teach it this way. Right? We don't want to wait on the line of scrimmage for this guy. As soon as he feels like you aren't rushing, he's going to get out and go. 85 is the opposite of hairline to chin, moving feet, tight hands, right? He has wide hands, his feet aren't moving, and he's standing up really high. So, not the path to success for us right there. And then you can see when this ball is kicked here, okay, this guy is 15 yards further down the field from our guy who just stayed on the line of scrimmage and tried to mirror him versus the guy who ran off the ball and tried to kick his guy's ass. So you can kind of see, what we're trying to get to from that standpoint. Another good example right here, if you watch number 8 and then number 5, I believe is right here, okay? Run off the ball, knock your guy back. Again, over here, standing up and trying to mirror, not going to get the job done. All right, now the other part of get off, to actually block the punt. And I like sitting right here. So for this drill, we'll have 2 cones, 5 yards apart. Okay, we'll have the finish right here at 5. Again, make it a little bit of a shorter run. Don't want to kill the kid's legs. Would rather have a million reps of the get off rather than just have them sprint for no reason. So at least at the beginning of the teach. So you can see I'm sitting right at the cone. The reason I'm doing this is our coaching points to block a punt at the point of the block are big eyes, low hands, and accelerate through. So you can see right here, I'm sitting right there to see where are his eyes and where are his hands. His hands are too high, so I'm going to coach him right there. Really good if you can have 2 coaches doing this so we can get guys individually coached as well as, being able to run and get the number of reps that we want. So really like this one right here, 37, really good. He was the guy who actually blocked 3 kicks for us, or 3 punts, last season. So you can see a lot of weight loaded up on that front foot, drives off, low hands through the finish, and accelerating through. There's just a few more examples here. His hands are too high. Don't love that first step, right? In our stance, we want that weight loaded up. And I'll go back to this example here. We want that weight loaded up on that front foot. Our chest should be over our knee, our chin over our toes. So a lot of weight on that front foot. So you're almost falling forward like he is right here, almost falling forward, coming out, drive your knee through, and then be able to sprint through that. That's exactly how the get off should look right there. Okay, so again, finding ways to rep while you're setting up that scout team. We'll just do this while we're in the season. We'll just fire off 1 rep for each guy on the 1s and the 2s right here as the scout team's getting set up. So again, just a way to be productive while you're waiting for those guys to get ready. And then the progression of this drill now is we put in pop-ups to act as a shield. When we're coming on the outside of the shield, we call it trimming fat. We want to stay really, really tight to that, chop down, get hip to hip on that shield, and then accelerate through the block point with, again, big eyes, low hands. Oops, shoot. Skip forward too far. All right, so you'll see right here, nice job coming through. Want them to be just a little bit tighter, though. Then we'll also have them puncturing the shield. So we're actually going to coach it a little bit different this year. Do love the way this guy overemphasizes the knee drive right here, right? We're going to talk about putting, and this is what we got to later in the season. This was a camp drill for us, but we're going to talk about putting 4 hands on the middle shield. So we're punching with both guys, okay? That way, if he leans away from us, because that guy will always be assigned to, I shouldn't say always, shouldn't talk in definites, right? He'll typically be assigned to blocking one guy or the other of the middle rushers. If he slides away and we punch through, we should be able to slide through this gap as we go. But that's our way of being able to rep it right there. Never wanted the guy reaching out like that, right? Get skinny through that gap was how we coached it last year. Again, we're changing how we're coaching it a little bit this year. So you guys get the idea and just rapid fire it. They change lines as they go, so you get reps at all that stuff just in case they get put in that position. And we were a big punt block unit. We blocked 4 this past year, which led our league. So we really, really worked hard on that stuff. Our kids took pride in it. This is a great story, actually. So we're watching this kid right here. This was in our opener this year. You know, I call the team, I call the punt return team up, give them a call. And as he's hitting the field, he goes to me, he's like, "Hey, coach, you want to see how to block a punt? Watch this." And I kind of like roll my eyes. I'm like, "All right, bro." Comes out, good job in the stance, rolls up through, beats his guy, trims fat off the shield, boom, double tap. And then as he's getting up, turns back, points to me, proved himself right. It was good. Babe Ruth calling a shot over here. Now, talking about finish. So this is our drill for finish on the punt block. So, and apologies for the quality of this film. It's kind of crappy. We filmed it on an iPhone. Any way you can get it done, right? But what we did here is first one, reach out, put your hand on the foot. Second one, hand on the foot. Third one, we actually kick the ball just to get used to that finish. And again, really concentrating on making the finish, the unique finishes like you have here on punt return. So we do teach 2-hand. Sometimes our guys go for 1 hand though. Again, they just depending on the situation. Sometimes they gotta have balls and go do it. This is 37, the guy who I told you was really good on this unit this year. You can see right here, big eyes, low hands, boom, through the finish. Again, couldn't have gotten that second hand on it, so find a way to get your foot, find a way to get your hand low, have big eyes, accelerate through. That's the way we do it there. All right, so now the finish from a return aspect. So we'll have 2 groups right here that run down. The guy closest to the sideline is the punt return player. The guy up the field is the punt player. I serve as the returner. So they're both covering to the returner. And our big coaching points here is we want the near hand on the hip, far hand to the near shoulder. Near hand, near hip, far hand, near shoulder. Okay, and we want to steer him past. Own his hip, own his life. This doesn't have to be a big crushing block. As a matter of fact, nowadays, that'll probably get called for a penalty if it is. But we just want to steer that guy past, use his own momentum against him. So an example of that right here is to the top of the screen. You see this guy get turned around. We're watching this right here, okay? And then he gets back in phase, though, and we talk about in phase. Okay, I need to back it up. I didn't talk about that. In phase being his back hip. be in his back hip. So we should be trailing him slightly, right like he is. And again, near hand, near hip, far hand, near shoulder, and just ride him by. It's a good example there. I'm not even going to talk about this. We're coaching it differently this year. This didn't work out well for us. Don't ignore this. Okay. So that's our punt return, or our block party as we call it, circuit. Just a couple more things want to run through with you. So I'm always big on finding ways to combine drills for different units. Find things that have, a lot of carryover between them. So one thing that we did, our head coach would give me 5 minutes every Tuesday to just work whatever drill stuff, I wanted to do from a special team standpoint. And we got to the point just doing tackling drills every Tuesday. Could have done some punt stuff, could have done some stuff for other specific units, but I felt like the thing that would get us the most carryover and make us better on the most units was to just tackle. Obviously big for kickoff, big for punt return. Big for punt. We would do cover drills as well, and that's what we'll show you next. And that's something that we kind of developed through the year and became one of the staples of that Tackle Tuesday for us. And, some of our compete drills, which I think are important. And I'll cover that in a second. But this was one that we got a couple block in the back penalties, and I wanted a way to overemphasize not blocking the back and give them some tools of what to do if they got in a position where they felt like they might have to block in the back, and then kind of turn this into a combination drill. And I think this works all 4 units. So kind of an interesting deal. So you can see here, the coverage unit players on the outside, the return unit players on the inside here. They're slightly behind. They're in that trail position. This isn't a competitive drill, but should be a high tempo drill. So when that guy has you in the back shoulder, we say, put him on your back. Put him in a position where if he's going to try to block you, he has to block you in the back. So you see that right there. They're working to put him on his back, cut him off, and then we're near footing to the returner, right? Near footing the returner, leveraging the returner, okay? For this, I run the drill. Our linebacker coach, Keith Davis, shout out Keith Davis, does a great job with our special teams, was an assistant special teams coordinator himself, works the finish. And then our DB coach, Spencer Carey, also a really good young coach, does a great job with our units. He coaches the finish part for the blockers. So we want to near foot, and we tell them to pause right here, want to be square. Funny enough, this guy's a receiver for us. He did the best job at this out of anybody, near foot, and we want to stop our feet. Coach Valone talked about it, but being able to get in that athletic position and be able to stick it so you can show you can move in either direction is really big for us. And then for the return unit players, you get put on his back. You can't do anything but block the guy in the back in this position, right? Teaching them the reaction of turning and running back and then finding somebody else to block. So that's really good there, and they just go and block the next guy in the line. Here it is right here one more time. Cut him off. Once he puts you on his back, turn, find somebody else to block. Make the returner, make that guy miss. Okay, now the return unit player is slightly in front of the coverage unit player. Here, we tell him to throw by. So this is really good right here. Violent punch to his back plate. Switch your leverage, get back in, and then tight to the returner. Now, for the return unit player on this, once he feels himself get thrown by and his leverage gets switched, we teach them to just block on this leverage. So now it's up to the returner to be able to set up his block and get working once we get to this point. Okay, one way that we'll change the finish of this drill, and again, just like on the other drill, our coverage unit player, he's going to near foot with his leverage on the returner here. But the return unit player now will have him do that ride by technique. So near hand, near hip, far hand, near shoulder on the finish. But they weren't coached to do that this year, so we didn't get that. But that's one way we'll improve the drill going forward. So now for our compete drill. So this is punt, versus punt return. So I think it's really important to do drills with some type of compete component to it on special teams. I've been a part of places that game one, you just told our special teams to roll it out after just doing a bunch of circuit work and work against scouts, which I just do not think is good. I have a chat here. Okay. Thanks, Coach Minucci. Appreciate you. Which I just think is not conducive to success. To say that, you know, your first competitive reps are going to be against a team in a game. So we try to put our guys in those situations throughout it. I've also been a part of places that have done 11 on 11, and to me that kind of turns into a shit show on special teams. And you don't really get to see the matchups that you want. So we do 3 on 3. So you can see here, gunner versus jammer, 2 guys, 1 guy versus our tackle, 1 guy versus our guard. For the shield and the punter, we have the shield give the cadence. You know, the punter will do his whole thing. We have the snapper here as well, so we'll work that whole operation. But the drill is really, in terms of the competitive aspect, for these 6 guys right here. All right. One of these 2 guys will be holding up. One of the 2, I will point out, who will be rushing. So you can see right here, the outside guy's rushing, the other guy's holding up. Then we have somebody throw the ball to the returner, who has to keep it between the hash and the sidelines. So again, and like some of this is ugly from a technique standpoint, right? But this is the first time they've been competing against each other, you know, to this point in camp. To this point, you know, since we've come back together here. So I've always found that like this meeting after this has been probably our most informative, best special teams meeting of the whole year in terms of those guys learning the techniques and learning the why behind we teach those techniques. Okay. On the other side here, and obviously you got to switch this depending on, you know, what your scheme is, but we'll have our wing guy, our viper that we call, with a guard tackle. And again, I'll point out 1 guy to rush, the other guy's block. And then it's working to get the returner having to keep it between hash and the sideline, leveraging him properly, all the rest of those things. So, hey, guys, that's my presentation here. If you guys have any questions about anything, go ahead and fire them away now. But that's all my contact information right there. Also, I run a Twitter account that's just special teams. Have a lot of cool drill videos up there. We actually do a Zoom clinic every Tuesday, Teams Tuesday. So if you want to check that out, have a lot of cool stuff up there. That's the Twitter handle for that. So any questions from anybody here? No? All right, awesome. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate your attention. And, yeah, go Bobcats.